The more you play Stella Sora, the more you will notice how incredibly scarce your resources are gonna get after just a week or two of playing it. Because of that, it is crucial to not waste the very few showers of early resources you are gonna get, and if you just started playing, this video is for you. And as indicated by the big fat hashtag sponsored in the top left corner, Stella Sora paid me to tell you how to save and safely invest your resources. This video is part 2 of a 3-part series, and if you are very new to the game, I would highly recommend you to check out part 1 first. Let's begin. The game will grant you enough resources to maybe max out 2 teams early on, with a 3rd team being possible if you invest wisely. Because the endgame is rotating and features certain elemental weaknesses and possibly also resistances, it is crucial to build a variety of teams of different elements to be able to tackle this content. However, as of right now, there is one team which can hold its own even of element, and that team is... well, we will talk about that in just a bit. Let's first get some general investment advice out of the way before we get into specific teams. Regardless of which team you play, it will always consist of one main carry and 2 supports. Because the main carry is, as the name suggests, your primary damage dealer, they also have the highest investment priority. It is advisable to get your main carries at least to level 81, possibly even 90, but that depends a little bit on the team itself. As for the supports, we can safely leave them at level 71, and if you are very short on resources, you can go even as low as level 41. I would recommend getting all your main carries up to 81 and leaving your supports at 41 for now, at least until you have at least 3 teams built. You can always invest more into your supports a bit later on. There is one exception to this, but we will get back to said unit towards the end of the video. Discs are crucial not only in terms of how a team might function, but of course also in terms of damage. However, the overall gain you get by going from level 81 to 90 is very small, and because of how incredibly expensive it is, I would advise leaving all your discs at a maximum of level 81, at least for now. This is even more important when you begin to realize that for some reason disc experience is much rarer than tracker experience is. This will also become important in just a bit. But back to your trackers first. Getting them to level 81 will require a lot of tracker tier up materials, and they have a little bit of a small problem. They are primarily obtained from boss drops, and those bosses have a chance to drop disc ascension materials instead. While you will need them as well, of course, this becomes a problem when farming bosses for tracker materials. You could, in theory, do 100 runs and only get disc materials. So the question becomes, how can we target farm tracker materials? Well, we can't. But what we can do is we can play the events, because they are highly efficient and will help you out massively with this exact problem. Most events do, however, require you to spend stamina, and after completion of any stage they will grant you an item that can be exchanged for various goods in the event store. As of recording this video, the last event, for example, offered a 5-star disc, dupes of the disc, a title and a lot of other materials. And for the current event, Beyond the Dream, this does not really change either. The store also offers a 5-star disc, dupes of the disc, a title and a lot of tracker, skill and disc upgrade materials. Given you fully spend all of your stamina every day, it usually takes around 11 days to fully buy out this 14-day event. Less if you will skip the title, that is. And hence, if you plan on not clearing out the entire event for any reason, such as simply not having enough time, focus first on getting the pulls, followed by the tracker tier-up materials, then the disc tier-up materials, star emblem polishers, tracker weekly skill mats, and lastly disc experience. On the note of the weekly materials, at authorization level 15 you unlock the Proving Grounds, where you can fight bosses up to 3 times a week to obtain various weekly tracker skill materials, which you need to level any skill beyond level 6. If you are very new to the game and you are in need of a 3rd disc, however, focus on getting the disc and the dupes first. Everything else is either preference or simply nice to have. As you might have noticed, I did not list tracker XP materials in this list. Instead, I prioritized the disc experience materials. This is exactly due to the aforementioned reason, that disc experience is simply more rare than tracker experience is and hence also more valuable. Generally, if there is a stamina spending event, always spend all of your stamina on said event, as they are much more efficient and have a higher return for investment than just farming the regular farming stages. For example, in the case of Dora, this is nearly 3 times as efficient as farming it normally. Knowing that, let's talk about, well, these things. Again, because while the events usually provide one type of material, usually for the current rate up tracker, one big question remains. Which one should we farm for and which stages are the most efficient to farm? Well, that obviously depends on the teams you want to build, so let's talk about which teams and trackers I would recommend investing into. Which brings us back to the beginning of the video when I said... However, as of right now, there is one team which can hold its own even off element, and that team is Terramark. The Terramark team consists of Nazuna, Gary and Telia and is a very potent team, able to tackle most of the endgame content very well, even if off element. We will dive deeper into how this team works in the third video of this 3-part series. Another team I would recommend is a Fuyuka team consisting of, well, Fuyuka, Flora and Telia. There also is another variation of this team using Shishia in place of Telia, but I specifically recommend Telia here because it means that we can save on resources. As you have noticed, both the Terramark team as well as Fuyuka can use Telia very well, and that means we can build one unit for 2 teams, effectively halving the amount of required resources for that slot. Generally, as already explained in the intro, newer players may find it difficult to gather enough resources early into the game to build more than 3 teams, so using one character across multiple teams is a very resource-efficient approach. That way you can select your teams based on the current elemental needs. Means prioritize on investing into supports that are shared among teams, such as Telia, who fits into essentially every team even if she is not the best in all, Frisia, who excels at a sub-DPS in Xia and Cheetos teams, and Anne, who can help in a lot of teams with a lot of utility and attack buffs, but is primarily used in Ventus teams due to her potentials focusing on Ventus damage and Ventus damage taken. Which means she is also a very good choice for Nazuka. If you happen to have either Xia or Cheetos, both teams use Telia very well as well, and on that topic, Frisia, who is used in the support slot for both of them, is a little bit of an exception in terms of skill levels. For our main carries, we usually want to level their auto attack, main skill and ultimate, while for supports we usually only want to level their support skill and ultimate. But Frisia supports the team by doing a lot of auto attacks. So while Frisia is great to invest into for Aqua teams, she also is much more expensive as she primarily functions as a sub-DPS relying on her auto attacks. Because of this, we also don't want to leave her at level 41, but instead get her higher up as well. However, Cheetos, Fuyuka and Xia are currently not available anymore, at least for now that is, and because of that I would recommend to instead focus on said Terramark team, as well as either an Ignis team with Shishia or a Ventus team with the current rate up banner character Nazuka. If you missed out on Fuyuka, just as explained, Shishia can work well in an Ignis team in the main carry slot as well. All of the teams can share Telia, and that means we want to first get Telia to level 41, then focus on Gary, Fuyuka, Shishia or Nazuka up until level 81, and lastly Flora, Nazuna and Anne, who we can all leave at a lower level as well. However, Nazuna will actually take the slot of the main carry in a Terramark team, and even though her main purpose is really just the frequent application of Terramarks, leveling her up a bit higher is not necessarily bad. And that brings us back to the boss materials. Why did I choose those teams? Well, pretty simple. Anne, Gary and Shishia require the materials from Dancer, Telia, Fuyuka and Nazuna from Count, and Flora, Frisia and Nazuka from Evernight. Given how the Xia and Cheetos Aqua teams are currently not available anymore, and Fuyuka too for that matter, we can cut out Frisia from this equation, and that leaves both Dancer and Count with the most available characters with a good split across both the Ignis and Terramark team. If you don't intend on building a Ventus team, since we can leave Flora at a lower level and hence does not need as much investment, we can most likely only do a very few runs on Evernight, get her to level 41 and instead focus on Dancer and Count. This allows us to efficiently farm for 5 to 6 trackers with only 2 different bosses, which minimizes the RNG and possible unwanted drops we might get. This is even more so the case as many of the Ignis and Terra discs are mainly looking for disc ascension materials from those 2 bosses as well. And with that, we are already at the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope this video has been helpful to you. Download Stella Sora today using my link in the description or pinned comment, and with that said, I wish you a nice day. See you in the third video. Peace!